Welcome back and to day 5. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about working with resistance in meditation. Now, what is it that really prevents our mind from becoming very peaceful, calm and concentrated? Well, it can be any number of things. In Buddhism, these are actually broken down into 5 areas, which can give us a bit of a steer in terms of how we might recognize these things. They're known as the 5 hindrances. So the first one is craving, which I also discuss as part of the 7 habits of individuation. Craving is this compulsion to move towards things we like, things that give us pleasure usually, whether those are physical objects, sense sensations, even thoughts. So there can be craving for certain thoughts. Likewise, in polarities craving, there is aversion. So it's essentially the same thing, but in the opposite direction. This is when we want to push things away, want to get away from things that give rise to pain in us. Again, this can be physical sensations, or they can be thoughts. The third hindrance is restlessness. So again, this is just a kind of surplus energy that isn't particularly directed anywhere. We all know what restlessness feels like, and this can be very much an obstacle and a source of resistance in meditation. Fourthly, there is what is commonly known as sloth and torpor, or we might want to think of that as lethargy, whether that's lethargy in the body or lethargy of mind, where we simply don't have enough energy to go out and meet the object of our concentration. And the 5th hindrance is doubt. So this is doubt as to whether what we're doing is even really worth it, and is this actually producing any kind of results, and why am I even doing this anyway? These are all forms of which doubt can appear. And doubt is something that tends to diminish over time as one practices meditation more and more and starts to experience firsthand the benefits of it. So doubt is a little bit of a wild card in these 5. But in regards to all of these, we can work with these by being mindful, by knowing when the mind is experiencing one of these 5 hindrances, whether it's craving, aversion, restlessness, lethargy, or doubt. And we can make that conscious with mindfulness. We can give it our bare attention, notice it, and then bring the attention back to the object. And so we're going to practice again today. We're going to set our intention to see if we can go a little bit deeper into meditation today. We're going to keep bringing the attention back to the breath, but we're going to try and sustain our focus on the breath. But this is something that really happens naturally as a result of letting go of these hindrances in meditation. So as we notice resistance arise, we just give it our attention, notice it, let it go, and that way we straighten out the mind and allow it to come to a place of concentration naturally, where we're just staying with the breath moment by moment. Inhale, exhale. When you get to a point where there is nothing but the breath. And as we remove that doubt, we start to have a lot more faith and confidence in the benefits that letting go of these things is not going to harm us. So there's a kind of wisdom and insight in that itself. And we start to get confidence in the benefits of meditation and know more and more on a very deep level that what we're doing is a very wholesome and productive, useful activity. Just finding your position when you're ready. Resting the hands on the legs. Spine straight. Posture that embodies the middle way between restlessness and lethargy. Neither extreme. just closing your eyes when you're ready. Just settling into the space around you. Allowing the mind to follow the direction of the body and become still. And just bringing the attention to the breath. There's nowhere else you need to be, and there's nothing else you need to do. Just bring the attention to the breath. There's nothing to be achieved here. There's no goal we're trying to reach. You just understand that this will unfold as it needs to, in whatever way it needs to. If at any point the mind has wandered, recognize it, then give your bare attention to the breath. If you notice any resistance, recognize it. Let it go and bring your attention back to the breath. Notice if the mind is especially restless, maybe leaning towards lethargic, or in the middle. No matter what the resistance is, just be mindful of it and bring the attention back to the breath. We'll practice in silence now, and I'll come back in before the end. Okay, just coming back into the space around you. Checking in with sounds, sensations, thoughts, feelings. Opening your eyes in your own time. Now, as much as we're doing guided meditations together here, the intention ultimately is to equip you to then go and develop your own practice with these tools. And one way which I would certainly recommend you do this, when you do practice on your own, is that you allow the meditation to unfold however it needs to. And that often means not using a timer. So like here, we've been going for 20 minutes or so. I wouldn't suggest you keep it to 20 minutes necessarily, but that you allow the results to determine when you choose to stop meditating. And speaking of resistance, one reason this is powerful is because it's likely there's going to be some resistance to continuing with the meditation. There may usually be several impulses to get up and just quit the meditation, walk around, before we finally let go of those unconscious motivations that are coming to the surface. Of course, if we don't actually fully let those go, then they're going to persist in some form until we finally make them conscious. So what we can do instead is just, when we feel that impulse to move, or whatever the resistance is, just sit with it for a little bit longer, 10 seconds, whatever it takes. And eventually, provided it's not something really compelling and there isn't something wrong with the body, like an intense pain or an emergency that has to be dealt with, the resistance will just lift. And so will the storyline associated with it. Because ultimately it's a feeling that's at the heart of that. The ego mind creates a reason, creates a narrative that is there to give us a kind of coherent experience and make sense of what is happening so that we can navigate. But actually it's the feeling underneath that is driving it. And so if we can face up to that feeling, sit with that resistance just a little bit longer, at some point it will just lift. And that's how we straighten out the mind. Then the mind becomes naturally a lot more peaceful, joyful, and comes to a place of concentration. So we're not trying to make the mind concentrated, we're not trying to attain any particular goal, but we are allowing it to happen in its own way, in its own time, as it needs to. So I hope that was useful. I will speak to you tomorrow for day 6 of this 10-day meditation series.